that I actually got it all right. Oh, yeah, got that, yeah. So the lineup is in the chat.
Can you post the lineup again? Because us late starters can't see the old chat.
Well, it was kindly done by Brian, so I'm sure he can.
Oh, there it is.
Brian's done again. Thanks, Brian. So I think what we can do is we'll kick off now, and just any of the late arrivals, we're going to do a little optional Halloween quiz at the end for fun. And so if you've got a pen and a piece of paper, or if you haven't, if you nip off and quickly grab something, if you fancy taking part. Yes, I'd like you all to welcome Iain MacAlistair of Glen Scotia fame. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. I hope we're going to have some cracking fun alongside some absolutely spookily brilliant whiskies that Iain has selected for us tonight. So everybody should hopefully have your 5 samples in front of you, and the lineup is just in the chat. For everybody who maybe hasn't joined one of our tastings before, it's a pretty informal affair, and we love interactivity. Just if you've got a question, please just raise your hand or put it in the chat box if you prefer. Yeah, let's have some fun, eh? So Iain, how are you this evening, this spooky evening?
Yeah, absolutely. Well done. You look $1 million. Looking really good.
Maybe 2.
Yeah, fine. Yes, absolutely, guys. As I say, thank you very much for having me. So yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. So yeah, thank you.
Oh, no worries. What's the weather like in Campbelltown at the moment?
It's absolutely peeing it down. It's been raining pretty much all day. Just another day in paradise, isn't it? Really, it's just.
Well, we had it pissing down all night, all day yesterday. So we sent you the lovely weather. That's what it was.
Ah, well, we're well used to it, so it's fine. As I say, we wouldn't expect anything else. It's mild. It's very, very mild, but yeah, it is what it is.
Oh, brilliant. Well, I have to say, I'm hoping to get there again very soon. And for anybody who hasn't visited Glen Scotia yet, I could not recommend it enough. I know a bunch of us were there in May this year, and Iain, you were an absolute star. I mean, we just had a cracking time. It was just, I would definitely recommend it for anybody who hasn't been yet. Actually, just out of interest, who has been and visited Glen Scotia already? Just a quick show of hands. I think that's actually most people. Chris Gladman, have you visited yet? No, okay, right. Rebecca and Ollie, you're not going to do a reveal of your wonderful costumes. Yes, very good. Yeah, okay, yeah, good reveal. Grand. Well, and this evening's session is recorded as well, so it'll go up on the usual NEWAS YouTube channel and stuff there. So just in case you ever want to be bored one night, need serious help to go to sleep, anything like that, then you'll be able to play this back, and it'll knock you out within about 2 minutes, I would imagine. So thank you very much for joining, like I say. Iain, can you just confirm that the lineup that I suggested, that that I guessed, was in fact correct?
Absolutely. Yep.
Hey, there you go. There you go. Doesn't happen often, but it did on this occasion.
Absolutely. Couldn't have done it any better myself. No, it's absolutely spot on. So you did a good job, Carl. Absolutely.
Well, that's where the good job ends, probably. So I'll apologize now. But just out of interest, why was there a specific sort of set of criteria? Why did you pick these particular 5 expressions, and maybe give any little bit of teasers or hints as to what we might be having later, which is all going to be blind, as you already know, really.
Yeah, I know, and that's the difficult thing for me, isn't it? Not giving too much away, but yeah, I mean, it's really just you know, the five whiskies. It is a bit of a timeline, really, you know, and I guess that's what's interesting. I mean, they're all straight from the cask. They are what they are. The strength's obviously completely unadulterated, so everything's basically really, you know, it shows you basically how the distillery's been performing, I guess, over the years since the restart. So, and yeah, they're quite interesting. As I say, you know, you'll find them hopefully quite educational. They might not be everyone's cup of tea for sure, which undoubtedly they'll not be, but again, you know, it's good to obviously learn and understand, you know, about the whiskies. So yeah, hopefully
do you have a bit of a love affair of trying sort of single, you know, straight from the cask, single cask stuff, or is your heart in the idea of kind of blending and coming up with something, you know, 1 + 1 = 3, you know, something that's stunning from a bunch of casks? I mean, what do you love doing the most?
Well, for me, Carl, it's obviously, you know, a distiller. So I'm a distiller, I guess. You know, that's what I do. So you know, it's obviously taking it from the malted barley through to the cask. But probably nowadays for me, it's really quite interesting to see how that new make reacts with the cask, or and as I mentioned at the festival, you know, a lot of the casks that we tried during that time, it was really trying to understand exactly that relationship with the new make and a particular type of cask, because everyone says bourbon, but what type of bourbon cask? So it's really just trying to strip back the layers, hence why it's good to look at the older stuff and learn from it and see, you know, whether we can improve on it, or is there something we're missing from that era. So you know, it's really just trying to get the full picture. So for me, that's really what I am. You know, it's really making this stuff and trying to get it as rounded as I can. You know, something from Campbelltown, and that's obviously got a huge part on it. So yeah, you know, there's lots of jobs.
Good, yes, I bet there is. Guys, I don't know if you want to all maybe start nosing or having a little sip of the first dram, which for anybody who missed it, the first dram is the sample bottle that's blank. It's got nothing on the sample bottle. That's the first dram. So I don't know if you want to maybe have a dive in with your nose. If you want to put some suggestions forward, again, you can either put it in the chat or by all means stick your hand up or jump in. Does anybody have any questions of Iain to start with? Does anybody want to dive in and ask Iain something themselves?
Can I get a case of this?
Well, there's a good start.
That's absolutely, Garson. That's it. Yeah. Well, that's it. You know, and a lot of these whiskies, as I say, you know, I don't think for the minute they're the best Glen Scotias you'll ever taste, but what's important is what they represent. You know, where the timeline and you know, how they got to this point. So that for me is an important thing here. You know, so it's slightly looking beyond the actual flavour profile.
So if anybody wants to put in a hint as to what they think the ABV is, you know, maybe what kind of cask this has been. I think this one might be relatively easy to guess what kind of cask it's from.
It's very spicy, Carl. Very spicy.
So you're suggesting that it might be quite a high ABV? I mean, we know that they're single cask and from the cask anyway, so they're, you know, they're not going to be 46% maybe, but actually on this one, Iain, on this one, I don't even know what the ABV is on this one. I don't know if you know it, but don't reveal yet.
I do, but no, I'll not say anything. Yeah, And you're right, you know, they are from the cask, so it's something to bear in mind that, you know, and yeah, it's it's got a huge bearing on it, and it's really got a huge bearing on the you know, how you approach your whiskey and how you appreciate the whiskey. Is that strength, you know? So yeah,
definitely getting that kind of green fruit. So I almost said red cherries, but actually it feels, now that I'm having a bit more of a nip of it, it's probably more for me along the lines of very green, sort of cooking apple type thing, or
yeah,
very young, great mouthfeel. Viscous 58.8. That's so two guesses at around the 58, but very specific there, Dan. 58.8. Have you got some inside knowledge here, you big cheater?
I've got my alchemy-meter out.
59. Loads of vanilla. Yeah, that's Brian. Sharp. Granny Smith apple, all right. Andy's suggesting the same sort of thing. Are we, what kind of barrel are we kind of thinking here? I think it's, like I say, probably relatively obvious, but
First fill bourbon.
first fill bourbon. There's the first bid in.
Oh, I'd maybe even second fill bourbon, but definitely bourbon cask.
Yeah.
Although
It is quite viscous, actually. I'm just kind of checking out the legs on it and thinking that it's sticking to the glass like no one's business. Yeah, I mean, it's not hard to guess that this is definitely a bourbon. I don't know, Iain, if there was anything that you wanted to kind of say on this as we're nosing it, and some of the notes that you're getting out of this so far.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously with something like this, you know, it is kind of, you know, it is a lot easier. I mean, the guesses and the strengths are very good, you know, very, very accurate. So yeah, absolutely. You know, it's obviously, as I say, you know, it's got a lot going for it. It's relatively straightforward to identify. And the thing about this is the flavor profile, you know, the cask's got a huge influence in it. It really has, you know. And this basically came from a year actually when again, without giving too much away, when there was 850 casks filled that year, so it was quite a small fill in that year. So yeah, again, quite a moment in time for sure. So, and this cask was actually filled on the 22nd, I think, 22nd of December on that year.
Right. Just so for anybody who maybe isn't quite familiar with how much your normal run would be, if you were 800 and odd casks that year, what would your typical year be?
Well, now we're now I say now. Last year probably, or the early part of this year, would probably be in course for a norm average is about 4,300 casks.
Right.
Now we're obviously this weekend, that's is the first weekend, so now we're working through the weekend now. So we're in course now for probably more like 700,000 litres. So we've went from what 80,000 to 100,000 to 250,000 to 350 to 540,000 to 700,000. So that's where we're kind of sitting at the moment, and that's as maxed. That's it. So,
Iain, good to see you tonight, Iain. Given that you know the date and you almost knew the time that this cask was filled, does that mean that you were there at the time, and that gives us a clue to its age?
Yeah, I actually filled this cask, believe it or not. So yes. So yes, that was one of mine. So,
in the last, what's that then, 13 or so years?
I'll actually been here, believe it or not, Colin. Next March will be my 15th year at Glen Scotia. So it's quite it's hard to believe. It really is. It's just flown in, you know. So yeah.
Sounds to me like your 15 years should come with a special little release.
Oh, I'll settle for a cask. Don't bother bottling it. Just leave it in the cask. That'll do me. I'm quite happy with that.
We'll all settle for a cask, Ian.
That's it. So yeah. Good to see you.
Just out of interest, Ian, how do you manage as the distillery? You know, like how do you manage that growth? You know, and not lose, you know, some of the character or the how do you do that?
It's difficult. It is difficult. And the best will in the world, it's always going to be challenging. You know, it really is. As I say, you know, I mentioned this guy quite a lot, John Peterson, and sometimes I wish John was still here. So yeah, I mean, it's difficult. As I say, I'm basically at the stage now. It takes careful planning, but we're basically at the stage now, as I say, that's us. You know, we can't get any more out of Glen Scotia. You know, so obviously to meet the demand, you know, we're at that 700,000, and to get to that point is always going to be difficult. You know, going up to 5 or 500,000 wasn't too bad, but getting beyond that is difficult, and it's difficult really fermentation wise, because obviously it's a flavor profile. It's a new make spirit at the end of the day is obviously the benchmark. So you really just got to try and work it as much as you can. There's only so many mashes extra I can do, but yeah, you know that there's certain magic number that you've got to get to. So and yeah, and that's where we are. So far so good. This, as I say, this is a first weekend. Guys are doing really well. 3 extra guys. So we're looking for someone else at the moment, but yeah, it's coming together. You know, it just takes time, and it takes time really, because obviously you've got to try it, you've got to look at it, and you've really got to just assess it. You know, working as I say, I work quite closely with the chemists at Loch Lomond, so just try to understand the way everything comes together, and hopefully I'm there or thereabouts. The best will in the world, you can plan, you can obviously put that plan in motion, you can try it, but ultimately, you know, it's just what comes out at the end is really the dictates. So all good so far.
Good. Stuart, you've got a question asked. Do you want to just ask it yourself?
I don't want to embarrass myself, Carol. It was just more of a general suggestion or guess if it was one of these heavy oak charred casks that you use in Victoriana. Just has a kind of similar taste, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's as I say, it's very, very difficult. You know, I even find it difficult. You know, I'm quite used to them, and I've got to obviously remind myself exactly what I'm looking at and what I'm doing here. So no, it's difficult. It is difficult. You know, they're really it's quite hard to actually, you know, ascertain exactly what it is. I'll give you a wee clue right enough. Probably when I started at Glen Scotia, I spent pretty much 8 years, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and it was all one type of cask. So it was just that type of cask. Now we use that type of cask, but other variants of that type of cask. Quite difficult, this actually. Yeah, it's just tell folk what it is.
Well, I don't know. Before we do a reveal, would anybody like to put forward what they think of this one? I can be a swine and just pick on somebody, or does anybody want to jump in and give their opinion on it?
I think that's a cracker. It's just a real straight Campbelltown dram, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, it just has like a good sort of the standard nice Glen Scotia sort of profile, and yeah, if you'd like to send her a bottle, that'd be lovely.
Actually, just out of interest, Ian, I take it none of these are actually available as such to buy as it stands. I mean, do you have plans to bottle any of the ones we're trying tonight?
No, and probably you'll never see them because they're probably again, it's difficult. It's difficult for me to even, you know, especially the older stuff. You'll probably never even see that in the Dunwich warehouse. So, so yes, as I say, there's a lot of demand for, you know, that's that age of cask, you know, especially the older stuff for a lot of different components. So obviously the core range, etc. So yeah, a lot is getting used up. So.
Well, I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but obviously that's the kind of perennial issue with trying wonderful cask samples is you try them and you go, damn, I wish I was able to buy a bottle, but actually on the other side of that, the flip of that is thank you very much for giving us the chance to try them, because that is a stunner. I love that dram. That is a really nice bourbon. I think, as everybody said, you know, it is just a classic Glen Scotia for me. Not that I'm a big expert. I'm certainly not as much of an expert as some that are on here in terms of Glen Scotia, but that is lovely. Thank you very much. Does anybody want to rate it? Anybody not so keen on it? Anybody give this a sort of thumbs down? Anybody not particularly?
Not thumbs down, but
Go on, Mike. Sorry.
no, I don't know. This is going to sound weird. I'm not sure if I've got the same sample pack as everyone else. I mean, it's nice, but it's not blowing my head off, and I don't know why. But
is it? I mean, is it that spikiness? Because it does have quite a bit of an ABV initial kind of kick to it.
I think it might be. I think I need to drink more whiskey and get used to the higher strength a bit more.
Now, obviously, we recommend sensible drinking. No, fair enough, fair enough. Anybody else not so sure on this one, or is everybody blown away by it? Should we do the reveal? Are you all happy?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know, Iain, if you'd like to kind of let us know what the heck we've just tried.
Yeah, absolutely. I just like, is Callum, you any idea before I mention?
Oh, I posted in the chat a mid-50s ABV, first fill, but wouldn't be surprised if it was refill bourbon from about 2010-ish, then, if given when you had started.
Yep. So yeah, absolutely. So yeah, absolutely. It's from 2010. It's a first fill bourbon. It is, and as I say, it's 58.2% ABV. So it's incredibly high. And don't get me wrong, as I say, it's never the best first fill bourbon to come out of Glen Scotia, and it probably never will be. But it's interesting, you know. It really is. As I say, it's interesting from as I say, when it was filled, the maturation, where it was matured. So there's a lot of different elements from this, guys, that that you know are, well, probably to me more so than you, but it's, you know, it tells a story for sure. Yeah, I like it for what it stands for. I really do. You know, it's typical. And as I say, you know, that those first fill bourbon for these 8, nearly 9 years. So that's what you were getting from that point. So from about 2008 onwards. So yes, well done, well done.
Well, Tim was asking the same question I was going to ask, and that is, can you remember what bourbon barrel it was? Do you remember what distillery it was from?
Oh, that's a good question. I would reckon a lot of these would be a lot of Heaven Hills.
Right.
Aye. And Heaven Hills for me were okay, but they weren't the best. You know, a lot of the ones I'm seeing now, you know, a lot of Jim Beam and such like really worked well. So yeah, you know, so that's what it was.
Good. We're going to have a pairing tonight apparently as well, because Rebecca's baked us all a cake. Have you got a picture of that cake, said cake there, Rebecca? Just so that we can whet our appetite.
Yeah, I did post it. I posted it in the group.
Okay, yes. Well, that's what. Yes. So if you want to whet your appetite and have a pairing tonight, have a virtual piece of Rebecca's cake? Or what was it? Was it Ollie? Did you cook it or cook it, bake it?
Obviously, it was me. You know.
Oh yes, yeah, obviously, yeah.
It was a bit of a rush to finish that today, I have to say. That's why we were late.
Is it a blood and guts cake by any chance? Is that what it was?
No, it was a passion fruit and bowmore cake.
Very
Quite
nice.
good.
Well, it looks damn nice.
Yeah.
So when are you sending out that a sample for everybody?
Don't know, but I figured out that I can send out macarons as a sample in the post. So maybe I'll turn them into macaron form.
Good stuff. So there you go. That was the reveal for the first ram.
Do we have
I hope
cast
you
numbers
guys
as well,
enjoyed
Ian,
it.
please?
Shall we dive into, and we can maybe have, if anybody's got any questions, just jump in. But while we're doing the next little bit of chitter chatter, do you want to have a dive into number 2, which is the smiley face? The smiley face. You see my artwork on each of the sample bottles. It's the smiley face is number 2.
Ian, I think Brian was asking for the cask number of the first one, just for his spreadsheet, because otherwise his spreadsheet will disintegrate.
But it was, sorry, Brian, it was cask 858. Yes. Yeah. 858. Just wait, a double check.
Yeah, 858. It's definitely that. That's what's on the bottle you've given me.
858. Yes. Yes. Yeah, that's you. Okay. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you.
So dive in and nose number 2, which is the smiley face, if you'd like. And I don't know if anybody, cheeky nose, yes, like it, Nigel. If anybody's got any questions of Ian while we have him to ourselves, guys. So you have Ian to answer any questions you might have, or if you like, you can turn to me asking additional questions. But
yeah, I've got a question actually, Ian. You were saying you were working quite a bit with the chemists from Loch Lomond. Do you do much work with the Scotch Whisky Research Institute, or just with mixed samples there, or?
No, I tend not to. The only real work I've done with them was an old sample I had from a long defunct Campbelltown distillery. So it was a new make sample from 1920. So that's the only, Dr. James Brosnan. So that's the only real association I've had with the Scottish Whisky Research Institute, which was really, really interesting. And it kind of tied in with the history of Campbelltown and what we're doing here. And yeah, that was really something that was special, because it kind of highlighted how similar the spirit in Campbelltown is. And it was obviously similar to the spirit they were producing in the 1920s, late 1920s. So it was quite a moment actually, for them to come to that assumptions. And obviously it tied in with the Richard Patterson thing with the Shackleton, and it was obviously more high profile than I was doing, but it was along these lines because obviously Richard spent his time at Glen Scotia in the 60s. So there was a lot of, it's good. It really was good. These things are welcome distractions, I think, at times. So
that's quite interesting, yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. It was really quite, as I say, it was obviously probably a once in a lifetime opportunity to get new make spirit from that
So
era.
where did you get that new make from? Then from Glen Scotia? Was it just left somewhere in a warehouse? Or?
It was a long story, as I say, and I think I've told the story to many before, but it was basically it was a local woman who since passed away, and her mother inherited the house of the daughter of the last distillery manager, and Mr. Miller of Lochhead Distillery. So in the house was all the accoutrements and trappings of that way of life, and there's still pockets of that around Campbelltown because it was so imbued. It was so it was just part of the everyday life, I guess, without even knowing that. So it was up in the loft. So it was basically and I don't have the bottle here, but it was basically a non-standard bottle from that era. As I say, the cork was degraded quite bad, but it lost a lot of volatility, which undoubtedly helped it in the long run. So yeah, she brought it in one day with Angus Martin, the local historian here, and I think she was quite gobsmacked that I was near to grabbing the bottle off her and swigging out it straight away. I had a good idea. I knew what it was. So yeah, it was amazing. It really was. So I can share that. As I say, if anyone's interested, I've got the report to share. So
yeah, that'd be great. Actually, it'd be great to see that.
Yeah. I can give it to Carol, so no problem.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. That's really good.
Thank you.
Bit of history.
Bit of history, absolutely.
Yeah. So we're getting some comments already, but apparently my brother Rod is running for PM, apparently.
Oh.
You're looking very dapper there, Rod. I know you've been filming today, so...
I can't do any worse than them lot.
I don't think anybody could, but we'll leave politics alone tonight.
But I'm still in costume at the minute.
Stuff. Spooky and scary stuff. Scarily good drams. Anybody want to give their opinion on this one? What they might think it is in terms of cask or the ABV of it? How old it might be? Anybody want to dive in, give their suggestions? Agree on the pineapple, yeah.
It's going to get slightly more complex now, I would suggest, so if you can disassemble this one, you're doing really well.
First time I've ever smelled apple on a nose. If people say apple all the time and I go, no, I'm not saying it, but this one I do actually get apple.
Apple, yeah. Yeah.
So I got apple on the last one, but I don't on this. Just, well, pineapple, but not apple.
But this one's more tropical, isn't it?
Mm.
Olorosso cask or Olorosso finish, maybe?
Could be. But we're not going to do the reveal yet, but we have a suggestion of Olorosso. Callum's suggesting Olorosso as well, or some Olorosso notes. Mid-40s ABV, Nico. Ah, okay. Anybody want to hazard a guess how old this might be? Does it feel quite young? What's the ABV kick on it? Much higher is reckoning Dan there? Or Joanne's reckoning a rum cask? Does this mean, Joanne, you're actually loving this one? Joanne? You want to answer? Come on. Joanne's currently on Mull, by the way, so it depends on how good their connection is.
We are here. We're not on Mull either. Will it kill her one?
Oh, right. Sorry, yes.
Sorry, I was
I'm really
busy
watching
cuddling the
Hamza
dog.
dance in the community centre.
What was the question?
Is everybody in the community centre watching Hamza dance?
Yes, they are. We got invited, but we thought we'd do the Glen Scotia tasting instead. What was your question, Carl?
Did you like this one? You mentioned that you thought it might have potentially been a rum cask. Are
That
you
is
enjoying
what
it?
I think.
Are you
It's
enjoying
probably
it?
a bit too sweet for me, but it's definitely pineapple-y. I can smell nail polish in there.
Nail polish?
Yeah, right at the very beginning.
Nail polish and definitely pineapple. So I haven't had that many rum cask finishes, so I was just guessing. Rum and pineapple kind of go together. I don't know. I'm just making it up now. That's my best guess. Sorry. Gonna go back to cuddling the dog.
Fair enough. You don't need to call John that.
I'm not hugging him.
I get called worse than that.
Yeah.
Far worse, I know. So, who shall I pick on? Iain, Mr. Love. Mr. Love, what are you thinking of this one?
I'm just kind of the same as everybody else. It's obviously sweeter than one. I definitely get the pineapple thing. There is a kind of slightly acetone notes. It's maybe a bit rounder than the first one. Maybe means it's possibly a bit older. But yeah, very sweet but lovely. Really nice.
Yeah, I think this is an older cask. lower ABV, yeah, definitely the tropical fruits. I'm wondering whether it's been finished for a little while, either a short finish or finished in an older, bit tired sherry cask, because it's not, you know, over sherried. It's just something underneath.
So, Kim, do you typically prefer a whiskey that's been less influenced by, for example, sherry, or do you tend to go the whole range, or you know, like to the dark stuff that's like treacle, or do you prefer it where it's maybe had a bit of a hint of that sherry? Or
I like whiskey that's still whiskey. I don't like whiskey that tastes like sherry. So, you know, yeah, I prefer the bourbon, but I do appreciate a good sherry finish. I think Iain and I see eye to eye with this sort of stuff. Give me good, old, decent bourbon barrel.
so this is on your radar in terms of, you know, it hasn't got too much of that influence. You're quite happy with the level of influence in it.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Grand. Okay, I'm going to pick on somebody else if you don't mind. Chris Gladman, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good.
Is this your favourite of the two so far?
No, I think the first one was just beautiful. This is still good though.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, lots of tropical fruit. I would guess rum cask, but I've only tried a couple actually, so I don't know enough about it.
Yeah. Maybe Joanne's just kind of putting in subliminal control over you with that rum thing going on. Cheers, Chris. Okay, so anybody not so keen on this one? Are we all happy with it?
Good. Nice whiskey.
Yeah. Dennis, did you just say it's whiskey?
Yes, it's a nice whiskey.
A nice whiskey. Okay. Good. Okay.
I like that a lot,
well,
but it's less recognisable as a Campbelltown whiskey, I would say. But it's really good.
Yeah.
It's still quite dry and salty, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The really kind of full frontal tropical fruit things throw me a bit.
Does anyone think it's a finish, or is it?
Yeah.
Original.
Started life in bourbon and was re-racked into some. It doesn't feel like a fresh Olorosso. It feels like a refill, but maybe not for very long. And it's as delicious as it is, and they're all going to be delicious tonight. Maybe some of the Scotia purists amongst us would say we prefer number one because this one has been re-racked.
Okay.
It feels like very much a hint of sherry. Ridiculously dry for me though. Liking it, but it's very dry on the mouth.
Yeah.
Okay. Shall we do the reveal then? Iain, would you like to?
Yes. So, well, the strength of this one is a 49.4%. Okay, so it makes it slightly more accessible. What's interesting for me is, and I actually totally agree with that, is the two. I think the young lady mentioned nail polish, and I think Iain mentioned acetone, and yeah, there's a certain amount of that in there. You know, you tend to get things like that the way it was made at the time, you know. So what we're talking about a wee while ago, you know, the process, fermentation, potentially type of cask too, but not so much. That's got a huge bearing on it. So this is from 2002. It's actually marked refill hogshead, but it's actually a refill sherry butt. It's cask 485, and it's it's refill sherry, as I say. So again, there's nothing to identify it, but yeah, I would say Olorosso.
And Iain, is this been fully matured since 2002 in the refill sherry? All
Yes.
right.
Yes. So it's been filled into that cask from day one, which is, it's quite interesting. I actually get, as someone mentioned, it's less Campbelltown. Casks like this sometimes, I think, historically, while, as much as I love the bourbon cask, Glen Scotia, I think casks like this sometimes can be, really, really have a huge historical significance purely for the type of wood it was in, undoubtedly European oak. It's an old cask, this. It's been about for a long, long time. It's got probably quite a track record, which is long since, I don't know, it's been lost. But yeah, you do get a lot of real tropical fruits, a lot of salinity in there, a little bit of oils. And it's something that I would expect to see, way back. And obviously fermentations, everything's been a lot shorter with that one. So it's interesting. It really is. It's really, really interesting to demonstrate something from that era, 2002, which again, as I say, these casks, I doubt very much you'll see this in the warehouse. You might, but I doubt it. And they're disappearing fast. So it's a moment in time again. So
I mean, Iain, this is a stonker. I mean, you guys, we're trying a 20-year-old single cask, fully matured Glen Scotia here. I mean, and again, Iain, thank you very much for sharing this with us. It's a cracker for me. I love this one. I'm just curious, for everybody who thinks the first one is their favorite. So I know some rooms have got 2 people in, and if both of you obviously have got a difference of opinion, if you're both the same, if you think the first one is your favorite, just put a 1 or a 2, if there's 2 of you, in the chat, just to give us a feel for who preferred the first one. So
I think last time I was up in the distillery, Iain, we had some of 486, which must have been a sister cask to this, Olorosso again.
Yes, that's correct, Brian. Yes, absolutely. There was one that went away this week. I think it was a 483. In fact, it was. So so there's not many casks. I think potentially, Brian, there is 4 or 5 casks. That's it. So that's all there is from that era. And these casks all had yellow ends. And again, there's a story behind these casks, because these casks, 2002, Davey, who's mashing through that wall tonight, he was mashing. Jim Grogan, who's retired, was the stillman. Jim injured himself, so he was off, obviously mending himself. So Davey had to mash 1 week, run the stills the next week, and fill the 3rd week. And to make life easier for him, they sent down these huge big casks. One of those you just drank there. And that obviously made life worse for David because it was impossible. You ever tried rolling one of these casks when they're full? It was impossible. So poor David. So yeah, that's, as I say, there's a story behind them all, and it's remarkable. And yeah, for me, something like that is, you just get a huge influence. It's Campbelltown. It's a wee bit dirty, and a wee bit off. It slightly goes off on a tangent there. But yeah, it's got that background sherry influence. All it would really need in there is a little bit of dirty smoke, I guess. So,
what's the future for these casks? These few casks that you've got left, Iain?
Garson, I mean, a lot of these casks, yeah, I mean, they're obviously the greater company will use them for X, Y, and Z. Some of them could end up in China, some of them could be for, different bottlings, but the majority, because they're quite high value now, it's harder and harder for me to use them at the distillery, for visitors like yourself. Yeah, and the pressure's on, the pressure's on and all the stock like that. So, to well, for me especially, as I say, because I mean, I love sharing casks like that, and I still will, even though I can't physically bottle them, I can still obviously duty pay a sample from them and let you taste them. But a lot of the time, you like to bottle them, and if it's sensibly priced, then obviously you get a chance to buy them. So, but it's probably getting to the stage now where you can taste them, but that's it, so.
Is it older kind of stock, maybe going to be independent single cask bottles that are older, whereas the distillery itself won't do so much of that?
Like you mean selling it to independent?
No, maybe even indies that have already got that stock, like for example SMWS or Gordon MacPhail or something like that.
Well, a lot of these casks, to be honest with you, Garson, there'll not be many folk will have their hands in Glen Scotia, that ilk. I think a lot of the ones you see, I'm trying to think, when I started here, there was a lot of early 90s stuff floating about. It used to be commonplace because that's all you seen, really. You never seen anything from the distillery. But the Scottish Malt Whisky Society, because, as I say, the production levels were that low really up until really 2012, 13 realistically. So 2013. So everything beyond that is, there's not a lot of it about. So you'll see very little of unique casks like that, even with and the SMWS, say, fantastic society, and they've got a wonderful selection of Glen Scotia, probably one of the few that's got a range that extensive. But even they, they'll not have casks like this. So, as I say, I'm sitting here with the bottle, and I've not even got it. Do you know what I mean? So it's just a case of, if I can, I'll share it, but as I say, it's not as easy now, even for me, to willfully and gainfully just pick any cask I want. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's good.
I know what you mean about the society bottlings, Ian. I've had a few of them, and some of them have been absolutely cracking. 15, 17, 19-year-old Glen Scotia. It's just, oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the team at SMWF are fantastic, and they did a wonderful job. They're obviously, they understand what they're doing, so that's that's wonderful. And as I say, they do have access to quite a few Glen Scotias. So yeah, tasted notes second to none.
So who I can see some people crying out for the next dram. So the next one, just for anybody who would like to start nosing it, is the Kiss or the Cross, depending on which way you look at it. And again, down to my lovely artwork. So that's dram number 3. And just out of interest, I did the quick tally of who preferred what. And I think on the whole, it appeared to be a virtually split decision in terms of of which one was the favorite. So it was practically even on the 1 and 2. So the purists didn't quite win, but neither did the guys who loved the second one.
Brilliant.
We have a little visitor. Just going to give an idea of my whiskey tastes. This is Campbell.
Hi, Campbell.
Hiya, Campbell.
Hi.
Right, that's good.
Is his brother called Town?
No, but his sister's called Isla.
I think there's a theme coming up here.
That must mean you have a favourite.
Oh.
Right, moving on.
Thanks, Cole.
So number 3, dive in, and again, chuck in some ideas if you have it. If you've got any suggestions on what you think the ABV is, what kind of cask it might be, how old.
Wow. Smells like PVA glue.
So different. All three have been so different on the nose.
Yeah.
Foam bananas, sweeties, used to get in mix-ups.
Yeah.
Smells like that.
Oh, this is silenced, everybody.
Oh, wow.
This one's a bit more sticky, more sort of dates and figs and prunes, that kind of thing. So I'm thinking more balsamic vinegar, PX maybe.
Sticks to the glass. I don't know about anything else. Wow.
It's very close to the Victoriana. It's definitely sherry led.
Yep. Very good. Doing well, guys.
Oh my God, that's wow. Holy moly.
ABV doesn't seem very high on this one again, maybe less than 50. So maybe we're looking at another 20-year-old cask, something like that.
I'm not sure I'm trying the same one. I found that relatively spiky. I'm thinking that was quite high in ABV, like late 50s.
I was thinking similar to Brian. I thought that was kind of 46, 48 sort of mark.
Yeah.
That is I think it is around about 48, 49 at the moment.
Oh, looks like I might be onto a loser here.
You're doing well. You're doing well, guys. You're obviously you've the first two drams you've picked up quite a lot. So yeah, doing well in this one.
This is yummy. You see, this would, you know, I think maybe, is this better than number one? If I went back and had some more of number one, I'd probably say number one, but that glass is empty. So this is lovely.
I think Dan's coming up with some corkers here. Flavor bomb, you're not wrong, and nose is mad. I'm with you on this, Dan. This is a cork.
Yeah.
It's knows that for a good old period of time.
Yeah, it actually gets better that when they've been sitting in the glass for a while. Sometimes you put this one into the glass straight away and it's all over the place. You know, it really confused. You leave it a while and it, comes together.
Feels like an awful lot more sherry than number two, even though number two was in an old sherry cask for 20 years. But obviously in the colour and the flavour, and we've got sort of aniseed and licorice, and as Iain said, the sort of dates and stuff coming through. It does feel a little bit more PXy, but it half reminded me of the calendar single cask PX from last year.
Yeah. Got that DNA maybe?
Yeah. I think that was a much higher ABV though, wasn't it? Quite young, that one.
So shall I move on? Any other questions? Sorry, go on.
I was just saying the calendar is a lot darker a whiskey as well.
Yeah.
This is fairly dark, and I have a suspicion that if you had a full bottle of it, you might get a better understanding of just how this is fairly dark in the bottle.
Wow.
There you go. Okay.
Oh, there. What's everybody thinking on this one? Anybody want to dive in with their view on it?
I'm getting what Iain's saying about if you've just poured it, it can be a little bit confusing. And I'm sort of getting that. I mean, there's the stickiness from the PVA glue. That's sort of my first thought. But, not in tune with this one yet.
I totally get that. You know, I totally get the PVA acid, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Anybody not so keen on this one? Okay. I think that's only one hand I saw there, but I might have missed anybody. Does anybody else want to dive in with their view on this? We've got so far, I think the consensus seems to be high 40s for ABV. There's some suggestions of PX. Any other suggestions on this one?
I'm not so sure on the PX. I think this may be a really active Olorosso. It's just not that really syrupy sweetness that PX normally kind of brings.
Yeah, it's doing more like maybe a Fino sherry cask. Or...
Yeah.
Well, we're going to see that. We're going to have the reveal very shortly. But anybody want to care to age this? Do we reckon that this is relatively young? Do we think it's quite old? Do we think it's older than the first one or younger? Sorry, the second one? Or
slightly younger, I would say. Kind of 15, 16, something like that, maybe.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
I would say either 15 to 18-year-old.
Right. And is that based on just it feels quite rounded and smooth, or yeah? Because that kind of 15 to 18 is often a bit of a sweet spot in casks, isn't it? Or certainly releases, certainly core range stuff anyway. Any other suggestions? Oh, Stuart Monroe suggested Moscatel.
See, is any wine in it?
Are we ready for the reveal, guys?
Yeah.
Okay, Ian, it looks like we're ready to rock and roll.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Well, Brian was very, very, you know, he's absolutely spot on. Same with Callum there. It's well, it's similar ABV actually. It's 49.8. But this is again, it's a sherry, a hogshead cask, really old cask again. It's from 1999. And it was cask 307. So it's a cask from the restart when Glen Scotia came back to life again. So it would be from the summer of 1999. And it's a PX orientated, you know, it's got that PX feel about it. Again, why I'm guessing all of these two guys because there's nothing to say it is that, but yeah, I would say PX. It's got a PX feel to it, you know, and it's a really, really old cask, really old wood. Looks tired, you know, in certain respects when you look at the cask. But yeah, you know, it's another one of these wonderful historic whiskies. This actually cask would probably be filled by the guys from Springbank because they were over here filling casks in the early days. So.
Boo, boo, boo.
No, I think it's great. They filled this wonderful cask for us.
They kept the distillery going, didn't they? You've got to give them that.
Yeah, that's so yeah, another moment in time, you know, it really was in a rare cask again. In fact, you know, I found this label on the cask. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that?
Oh wow.
Okay. So that was on the cask, and that shows you the life this cask has had, you know, so it's quite remarkable. And for me, absolutely, you do get the wee off notes coming through there. As I say, it's not everyone's cup of tea, but it's certainly Campbelltown-esque. It's got that feel to it. It's got everything you would expect from that, you know, that kind of historic Campbelltown flavor profile, you know, from these casks. A little bit, you know, dirty feel to it. Again, a little bit of smoke send you through there and you're away. You know, that would really, probably that smoke sinew would really cover the slight acetone notes you're getting now and again. So that would just take them out slightly and just wonderful. You know, it would be a stonker.
I mean, it's a refill from Olorosso. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's obviously came from there and it's went to the Coopers and it's been redone at the Coopers. But you got to ask yourself,
yeah,
a lot of these casks, you know, they're really, really old, you know, and they're and a lot of the times you don't really understand how old they are, you know, how long they've been in the system. So it's quite interesting to, you know, to see something like this and know that that's obviously a tangible link.
What did it actually say on the label? I couldn't read it.
It basically gives you the cast number 18 18542, and it's from 1991. That's obviously it's been filled here in 1999 at Glen Scotia. But it shows you it's a link to the fact, you know, it's obviously that tangible link to where it came from. So again, a lot of these casks at Glen Scotia, you know, they would be random. Some of them wouldn't be the best. They would be what they could get their hands on. They would be using these casks and they would be filling them specifically for that time period, because there would be no master plan at Glen Scotia at that time. It just got the place running. John got the place running, so it'd obviously just be like that filling, and we don't want to spend too much money in wood, so we'll use X, Y, and Z. So, and that's one of them. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's mind blowing to think that this was, you know, this was filled when Glen Scotia was just restarting. It's just fantastic. Did you try this before you shared it with us, Iain, or are you know, is this something that you thought, I'm just going to put it out there and see what it's like? You know, was there any thought around what, you know, this particular cask?
Yeah,
purely because this is the only 1999 you could lay your hands on?
Well, it's kind of getting that way. Yeah, you know, a lot of them, as I said at the start, you know, I don't think for a minute you'll think it's the best whiskey you've ever tasted in your life, but it's more the educational, it's more the timeline, it's more the, you know, if you're into Glen Scotia, then it's quite interesting to get an insight into these casks and how they came about and you know, why these casks. So, and I think that's especially with the last two we tried there, that's certainly the case. And yeah, it's getting to the stage now, yeah, beggars can't be choosers for me. So you're right.
See with this age of cask, Iain, how difficult is it to know when it's peaked against someone in some office telling you that they want a 25-year-old or a 30-year-old? Is there an argument, or is there a debate about whether it's peaked or whether it should be kept going? Or
a lot of these casks, to be honest with you, you know, it's variable. You know, a lot of them probably, you know, are, in fairness, are not really at the standard where they could stand alone, a lot of them. So they obviously need to be used as part of a, you know, a bigger vat, you know, potentially finished. So it's a lot to do with the wood, the original wood. As I say, you know, you've seen that, and it's obviously old wood, so that's got a huge bearing in the final outcome, Garson. So versus, you'd like to think the stuff that we're potentially producing today, if it was a similar cask, or, you know, similar shape, type, etc., but hopefully the quality was slightly better, then it would be able to stand alone better, you know. So if we wanted that, to use that as potentially a 25-year-old, you know, at that period of time, 25-year-olds onward, then it would be a lot easier to make that decision and use it. Whereas casks like that, you've got to think carefully, you know, what you're going to do with them, because sometimes, you know, they can't stand their own 2 feet, to be honest with you. So,
and you don't I don't want to put you in the spot, but do you not think that could stand on its own? Because I do.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I really do. You know, I think they're all really interesting. It's just a bit there. It's just a bit there. There's maybe some elements. It's, as I say, I love it for what it is. You know, I really love it because it's got that Campbelltown aspect, and I think that's wonderful. And it does really. And it's rare. You know, a cask like that's rare here, but it does really. You know, for me, it's got so much of the regionality and everything in there. As I say, a little bit of peat through it. But yeah, it's nearly there. It's not quite, I don't think. You know, it's just.
Are you thinking, Iain? I'm reading between the lines, I think, or correct me if I'm wrong, but are you thinking that this cask is going to, the whiskey that's in there is going to actually improve further? So you don't think this is kind of the sweet spot yet for this cask? Is that what you're saying?
A good example is a lot of the 1991 stuff. It's again, you know, it's variable, you know, but I'm finding some casks that I look at from 1991 now are absolutely, you know, really, really like the stuff now. Whereas when you go back a few years, I didn't. So it's all how you, I guess, go about the business in the early days, you know. So if you're making new make spirit and it's a certain standard and you're putting it in a certain standard of cask, then it's like anything, it's going to take longer to come to fruition. And I think that's the case with some of these. I think they're lovely, they're interesting, they're obviously, as I say, a moment in time. Could they be better? Well, possibly, but you know, it's like anything, you know, you're always looking to improve, and that's how I'll say to everyone, you know, I wouldn't think for a minute any whiskey you taste tonight will be the best whiskey in the world you ever taste, but it should make you think, it should be educational, you know, it should obviously, you know, what's missing potentially or what is there I didn't expect, you know, whatever the case may be. So
fair enough.
So
while we, because there's a couple of questions being asked, but before I ask them, would you like to dive into dram number 4?
Okay then.
So dram number 4 is the heart. And again, apologies if my artwork does not look like a heart, but hopefully you'll be able to fathom it out on your sample bottles. So it's a heart, and that's the next one. And I know that there's a couple of questions, so while you're maybe having a nose of that, Ross, Stuart Monroe, you asked a question there just a little back. I don't know if you want to ask it or I can repeat the question. It's up to you.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah, Iain, I was just asking, with the 2 new distilleries in Campbelltown, you're quite excited to see that. I know you've been waiting a while for new distilleries, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, spot on. Yeah, I mean, what took them so long? You know, that's only what took them so long. Yeah, I mean, I could never understand why, you know, Campbelltown kept missing out. You know, why would you want to go to Islay when you can come to Campbelltown? So yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's wonderful. You know, and it wasn't that long ago that they really, well, you know, there was no region of Campbelltown. You know, so they nearly took it off us. Springbank had to build another distillery, for goodness sake. So it was yeah, it's good to see, and it's you know, it's wonderful, it really is. And it's a place to come, it really is. You know, there's so much potential here, and I guess you've got a ready-made history you can tap right into. You can obviously put your own style, whatever you want to do, you know, it's up to the distillers themselves. But yeah, it's wonderful to see, and I can't wait to actually get started, you know. So brilliant. It's all good news.
Good.
Speaking of style, I think Anne Croucher is going to bring some interesting style, shall we say?
Yeah,
he's an unusual man.
He is. He's a lovely guy. You know, it's same with the guys at Rathsay. You know, they're wonderful people. You know, Alistair and Bill. You know, at Rathsay. You know, great guys. You know, and they're really doing a good job at Rathsay. So it's you know, they'll do the same here. They're very methodical. They work through everything, you know, steadily. So yeah, same with Iain. You know, obviously. You know, Ian's obviously doing very well in what he does, you know, the independent bottling side. So yeah, it's good. And as I say, these guys, you know, they'll bring their own particular set of skills, and they'll do very well. So it's good. It's good to see.
So Ross asked the question as well. Ross, do you want to dive in with your question, or shall I just repeat it? Go for it.
I was just curious to know, because I might have my dates wrong, but I think 1991 or 92 was when the Spanish changed the law and they weren't allowed to ship their sherry in casks anymore. Because I think, you correct me if I'm wrong, you obviously know more about it than me, but I think they used to ship the sherry over in the casks, and it used to be bottled in the UK. So the cask, it could have sherry in for quite a long time before it was actually emptied. I was just wondering whether there was a difference between those casks. So I've barely ever had any whiskey that's been in those type of casks compared to the more modern ones, or not really.
Yeah, you know, and it's a really, really good point, that, because while the cask, you know, the casks that I use, the modern, say, you know, the PX or whatever I've got at Glen Scotia, Olorosso too, but a lot of these casks are really, really good casks, but you tend to find a lot of the older wood, and bearing in mind where we are at this point in time, a lot of that wood's getting, you know, it's getting well used. The last two we've tried there. So you probably find that a lot of that early wood, you know, would be, first of all, a lot of it would be European oak, so there'd be differences there. And there would be more of that, obviously, sherry influence, because if they're transporting these casks over there, then absolutely, you know, that's only going to be to the benefit of the distiller ultimately, because he's got a fresh cask, you know, slightly less sulfur and such like in that cask. And that's how a lot of the casks was obviously, even going back before that, you know, obviously the Victorian era, a lot of these casks, that's how they were brought here, because they were obviously transportation containers. So they would have the port or the sherry straight to the harbour here, and there would obviously be a byproduct, would be these casks. So yeah, I mean, it must have been wonderful to get these fresh casks. So, but you're right, I'm not exactly sure it is that date, but I think I think that's spot on, actually.
I think I might need to find a room for this one. I'm not giving anything away, but there's been some suggestions around peat, different animal altogether. Said Andy Stevenson, Serrano ham on the nose. Interesting.
Yeah. This is the Love Heart we're on now, is it? Yeah.
Yes, this is the Love Heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's everybody thinking? Does anybody want to dive in with their view on this one? Or shall I pick on somebody?
Picking someone.
Yeah, I think I might pick on somebody. Let's think. I'm going to pick on some family. So my dad and my brother. Rod, Dad, what are you thinking on this one?
Number one's still my favourite, but that's my second favourite. That was lovely. Yeah.
What about you, Dad?
I picked up a bit of peat in it. I don't know whether that's right or not, but I really like that one. That's probably my second favourite as well. I think the first one was really good. Really enjoyed the first one.
Yeah. Okay. Any hints on what you think the ABV is on this one?
I would say it's got to be in the mid-50s.
Yeah,
I would have thought.
I'd say about 55-ish, somewhere around there.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Let me think. Who hasn't said anything tonight? We need to pick on somebody who's been quiet. Gavin, I've noticed you've just joined. Gavin, I hope you're able to catch up. I know you had to come in a bit late. So Gavin, I hope it's all going all right and you know what's happening. The first one was the blank sample. So Keith McKenzie, you've been quiet. Are you there? Are we able to have your opinion on this one?
Sorry, I was on mute.
No worries.
I'm not getting any peat at all.
Right.
But it's much sweeter than everything else we've had so far. I put it in the mid-50s, but I've just put a drop of water in, so I'm just about to try that.
So are you thinking this is what kind of cask do you think it is? If you're not getting any peat on it, what
I'm not getting any peat at all on it.
Uh-huh.
I think it's a refill.
Uh-huh.
Because I'm getting actually with a drop of water in, there's a lot more wood coming through.
Right.
So almost like a I'm not even sure if there's any sherry in that. Just maybe it's a recharred cask.
Okay.
I'll give
Nice.
them a wee. Sorry, guys. I'll give you a wee clue in this one. Okay. Out of all the whiskies we taste, this is probably, well, this is going to be quite hard to identify, to be fair. So there's 2 casks involved in this one. Okay. I don't know whether that helps. No, probably not. But
no.
Is this the new double cask?
No, it's not, Brian. No.
That's going down really well, by the way.
It is, yes. It's lovely. Yeah, that's okay. That's what you're tasting. That.
Okay.
Keith, don't forget the Carl.
If
Carl
that's
does
looking
get
for a
these
good time,
wrong.
Ian.
Hey, Nigel. There you go, son. Take it. All yours.
I'd love to.
So I'll pick on Matt. I don't think you've said much tonight so far. Matt, what are you thinking of this one? Oh, yeah. I think your volume. Are you there?
I think if anyone gets close with this one, I'll be very impressed. Very impressed.
Matt, are you able to talk or? No. It's all right. We didn't want to hear from you anyway, Matt.
Ian, how long was the second cask?
It's still ongoing.
So how long's it been in?
It's been in since 2019.
Oh.
September 2019.
That's the red wine finish gone then, isn't it? It's long for a red wine finish there.
And it is a one-off. So again, like everything else here tonight, there's only 1 cask of it, and that's it. So, yeah.
Flange, Ian, thank you very much.
You good health, everyone. Cheers.
It's not something like an IPA cask finish or something like that.
I'm thinking of a sweet dessert wine or something like that, like a dessert wine finish.
Oh, the Takai is a good shout.
So it's the terms, is it?
Well, so far we've had pretty much virtually every cast you can have. So we're doing well.
I tell you what, let's just chuck a tequila in one there just for the sake of it.
Why not?
I think the first thing I would ask, do you get any peat? Is there any peat through that?
No,
I don't.
Yeah. No one get any peat? No.
No, well, I think
there's peat in there.
Yeah. Definitely some peat through it. Yeah.
We got a little hint of peat.
Yeah.
There's a peat.
Just on the nose, yeah.
So I think there's probably more people thinking it's peated in some way than not.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Yeah. So a little bit of peat in it, and you just got to think back, what we said at the start, you think of what the majority of casks would be. So potentially it was something, it started off life in a particular type of cask, and it might have had peat in it, I don't know.
So it's lightly peated in first fill bourbon, then going into something else in 2019 is really what you've just said.
Has it gone from bourbon to bourbon?
No. It's
Well, shall we do the reveal? I think people are itching to find out what it really is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, okay, so this is a 2012. It was cask 77. It was a lightly peated, as Callum said, first fill bourbon. And that peating level would have been 17.3 ppm. And it was put into a No one get any ideas? No.
Burgundy?
No.
You've had rye. You've had some have said it's not a peated spirit, but it's actually gone into an ex-Isla cask. You've had pretty much every single potential option being put forward, I think.
It's quite interesting, this, it really is. It's interesting for me too, I've got to say. It was put in a first fill Olorosso hogshead, and it's still in the Olorosso hogshead. So I think the peat aspect, while it's not strong, slightly dampens, the finishing cask there. So this is quite interesting, actually.
What's the AB on it?
A 57.7%, would you believe?
Doesn't feel like
It's a lot lower than that.
It does, actually. It really, really, out of all the whiskies, I think tonight, this one probably is, it's, quite interesting. So, first fill Olorosso finish and still in there. See the colour, guys?
How come you've only got one of these, Iain? Surely you have to have a fair bit of lightly peated first fill at that age.
Well, I do.
Have a fair few first fill hogsheads floating around.
Yeah, it was just to try it, and that's it. See how it panned out. So just whack it in there and see how it goes. And it was.
Would you like to have a view from everybody here as to who would be very tempted to buy a bottle of this if it became available?
Yep.
I think that's an absolute crack at that.
Yeah.
So I think there's a few show of hands there. Iain, love, you kept your hand down. Is that intentional? You wouldn't be interested in this?
No, I just wasn't listening. I think that's lovely. I think it's a toss up between 1 and 4 for me so far. That's tremendous, and it's interesting that it's so much younger than the last two we've had as well.
Yeah.
You don't seem to bottle much young stuff though, Iain, do you?
No. I mean, it's well, obviously, for me, it's still that finish is ongoing, Brian. So it's just to see where it goes, because
based on the hands tonight, most of us would buy a bottle. So
I know, and it was well, exactly. You're right, and it was a bit like this the PX cask I brought down to Southport. Yeah, I mean they're nice, but it's for me, it's good to see where they go and how it develops, because quite honestly, this one took longer to get there than the other casks. And I'm not quite sure whether it was a peat influence in it. And it's quite interesting to get everyone's reaction with the peat there, where you weren't quite getting the peat was slightly hidden. There seemed to be a confluence, a confusion between the Olorosso and the peat there, which was, it's quite interesting to see that, actually, because it's quite well balanced. I think this one's quite approachable, quite well balanced. It's got a lovely oiliness to it. The base bourbon there, as I mentioned, obviously is, you see it in everything now, don't you? All the seasonal releases, etc. So you've got that. We're reaching that stage now where you've got a wonderful base to work off of now, which is fantastic. So, Are
you pleased with that, then, Iain? Are you thinking that your experiment has worked?
I am, and as I say, it is an experiment. So yes, it's wonderful to see. As I say, it's coming along.
Presumably, you've got more control over this being a 2012 10-year-old. You've got a bit more control over these casks, haven't you? And would this be the kind of thing that you might consider putting into, say, the warehouse tasting, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. You're getting to stuff that's obviously younger. So a lot of that younger stuff, the younger it gets, then the easier it is for me to stake a claim on it, if you like, and use it myself, which is good. And obviously the fact that, the guys here, that they've made that stuff. So that's what it's all about. We've obviously got that. We've got that connection with it, and probably it ties in with the what's going out, so what the releases we're getting from Loch Lomond, Michael, etc. And then obviously what we've got here with the casks we've got at the distillery, then things like that, obviously, you know, we're a bit more on balance, you know, rather than the older stuff pre 2008, you know, is obviously slightly different flavor profile.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good. It's good. Thank you. Feedback, I tell you, I learned too.
I was going to speak there, but I've noticed everyone's very politely putting their hands up, so I'll wait for my space.
Go on, Neil. Go on. Go for it.
I was just going to say, like, you mentioned the sweet spot before, obviously, that with the sherry kind of masking the peat in that. Do you think you're at the sweet spot now for this one, or do you think it needs a bit longer?
No, I think we're pretty much, yeah, I think that's good. You know, I think it's good. It took a long time to get there for sure. It was probably slower than the other variants from that era, but yeah, it seems it's pretty good. Pretty happy with that, actually, you know, the way it's at there. So it's, as I say, it's quite well balanced. There's only so much it's obviously going to, if you like, pan out, mature there, you know, with the original variants, the lightly peated, etc. So yeah, I think that's good. It's quite interesting. And again, it was obviously looking at that historical connection with that one, you know, a little bit of peat in there, and obviously a good base whiskey into that cask, you know, just to see how it would turn out. So undoubtedly, if you left it for longer, yeah, it would change. But I think we're a good place for that one.
Right.
Will it be coming to market?
Again, you know, I don't know, but yeah, it's easier. I would say with this one, it's possible. Yeah, undoubtedly, it's possible. You know, because obviously I've had my hands on it, and yeah, we can certainly probably do something with that one for sure.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
I'll keep you informed.
Is it a difficult sort of choice as a distiller to actually focus on core range and make a business and make the bottom line, but you have people like Carl and the indie festival, etc., and you know, fans like us who are not looking at core ranges, and you know, we're fascinated by these individual bottlings, but you can only really put out the core range to make money. So we're sort of saying, we love these, they're interesting, they're unique, but people aren't going to see them.
No, you know, single casks, I mean, the core range is obviously, yeah, absolutely. Any distillery, there's a certain amount of, if you want to call it the core range. Single casks in the Loch Lomond group as a rule tends to do quite a lot of single casks, you know, so you shouldn't be, it shouldn't be an issue. It's always, there's only so much, as I say, the stock levels dictate how much you can do. It's time consuming, and it is, you know, it's a labor intensive business, you know, putting out single casks, and it obviously involves quite a lot of work, thought, finishing potentially, and whatever, you know, you want to do with that cask. But it is possible, and I think the Loch Lomond group really does that quite well to a certain lesser or greater degree. You know, they do put out quite a lot of lovely casks, whether it be Glen Scotia or whatever. But for me, as I say, it's kind of even digging beyond the single casks that you get, you know, because it's taking it to another level and trying to get behind that and find out about the distillery and look at, you know, what makes it tick. And as I say, it might not be the best whiskey in the world. It might not be a whiskey that's really showcasing this is what we can do with X, Y, and Z casks, but it's really just trying to understand what made it tick and what potentially makes it tick. So it's you know, it's multifaceted, and it's and that's I think that's what I try to do now, you know. So just a lot of random samples, if you like, you know. It could be oddities, could be wonderful, or it could be terrible, but they should tell a story, you know. So, and I think that's the next level.
Yeah, I don't want to drink something generally that a brand has created to remove the quirks and the flaws and the highs. I like the flaws and I like the quirks and but I don't like to be vatted out of uniqueness.
Yeah,
I think that's the beauty of these events, isn't it? You get to taste something that's unusual and not many other people will taste, and it's nice to have tasted it. And a lot of these I would not necessarily have a bottle of. It's nice that, for argument's sake, that last one did have some nice influences of the Glen Scotia. It was very tasty and it's nice to have tried it, but I wouldn't necessarily have a bottle of all of these anyway. So I think it's nice you get the opportunity to try some unusual things from different casks. And as you said, it's kind of pushing the boundaries and seeing what might be nice in the future, and kind of educates you on that side of things. If you do a single cask release or a festival bottle or something that's a bit out of the ordinary, you've got a bit of a background of what you might like again.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thoroughly agree with that comment, but I also, tasting some of these, it makes me want to super glue myself to the Dunnage warehouse door and demand that we have at least 20 cl bottles of some of these casks for the UK.
Good point.
And I really do. I seriously, I think that if the Chinese market is expanding and Southeast Asia, etc., I get that, and we have to share. And there's only so much liquid out there. But if we had 20 cl bottles, I would pick up a 20 cl bottle of all of these.
Yeah, you know, absolutely spot on, Garson. And it's actually a conversation I had with Hannah and Cheryl on Friday. And yeah, it's something we need to look at, you know, because I don't know many times they go down to the Dunnage, they do a taste, and the way it is now, obviously with Brexit and whatever, you know, look, we can't take a bottle back, but we would love to take a 20 cl bottle of that back with us. You know, can we get a no? And it's not even the fact you know that we don't do it. You know, it's the fact that they're disappointed. You know, they're disappointed. They're leaving here. Would I love to take that 20 cl? So yeah, absolutely, fair comment and bang on. It's something we need to look at. It really is. Just to give everyone a chance to get them, because as you know, as you say, you might not want to buy a whole bottle of that, but you know, I might want to take a 20 cl. Just yeah, I'll try that at home, see what I think. So yeah, good point, sir. Good point.
I think Nigel, you had a quick question, but just to remind everybody that if you'd like to start nosing number 5, since we've had the reveal on number 4, by all means dive into dram number 5. And Nigel, you've got a question. I think you raised your hand. Go for it.
Yeah, I was just wondering how much that last one was influenced by the Warehouseman's edition. There's some, lightly peated, sherry finish. That always goes down well as one of the best single cask bottlings. Whenever I do here's a few Glen Scotia single casks type tasting, that tends to come out on top. There's a lot of that sort of influence in there, I think. And was that on your mind when you thought of having a go at that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's certain elements, isn't there? You know, and as I say, for me, you know, it's bourbon, isn't it? But you know, I've got to think beyond that at times. And obviously the fact that it's sherry, you know, you need to have a sherry cask. You've got to have a little bit of peat in there. So when you take that base whiskey, if you like, you know, and try and get something that's maybe going to be different, something that's going to be special. So, and that's what it's all about, you know. For me, as I say, you know, it's there's a huge part of me. It's always looking to the past.
Yeah,
to whiskies that's came and went, to the history of the place. The walls speak to you when you're in that Dunnage warehouse. So yeah, it's just trying to understand exactly what made the place tick and what makes the town tick, and and that's where casks like that come out of, Nigel. So
that's the winning formula. Do a few more of them.
Well, that's it. It's and as I say, there's not a lot about, you know, they're quite rare. So but yeah, I'm lucky I can do that. I mean, I really, you know, because it's a privilege to be able to do that, and I guess not many companies would allow that. So, you know, you'd be very very tight cast. So, but yeah, I love that. That's probably where I am now. No, well, once I get this next bit done, then I'll be back to looking at that aspect. So, but yeah,
that's the crack of that one. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Well, Stuart Monroe, you asked a question there again. If you want to dive in yourself and ask it, because I think it was about speaking of releases.
Timed that very well. I literally just came back from the toilet and you said my name, so almost deliberate.
I'm watching you.
Yeah.
Not in the loo, obviously. I mean, I should correct that straight away.
I know. It's taking a turn. Yeah, so it's kind of a double question. So I was just asking, like, how would you rate the seasonal 2022 bottle? How did you find it? And generally releases, how much of an influence and say do you have in bottles when they come out?
Well, I mean, I guess, the say is obviously the wonderful liquid that we start off with. That is, as I say, you can do so much with that. It really is a flexible liquid, and that's one thing about Glen Scotia. It really works well with so many different casks. And again, I guess we're just finding that out, aren't we? It's a journey, because you go back 10 years, there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. It was just the wilderness. It was tumbleweeds. There was nobody here. So it's great to see how it's progressed in that period of time. And yeah, I mean, casks like the most recent one, they really, really work well. They really do. They're fantastic. They complement the distillery and the style and the region, and it appeals to many, which is fantastic. So yeah, they're beautiful. But I'm going to say that anyway. I'm gonna, So, but no, they're good. They're good. Whereas some of these you'll get, as I say, we tasted tonight, tend to be maybe more extreme. They tend to be slightly pushing the boundaries a bit. And as I say, it might not, and I make no apologies for it. As I say, it might not appeal to everyone, but it is what it is, and it's part of the Glen Scotia experiment, I guess.
I'm going to pick on some feedback for this number 5. I'll be curious to hear Dave Howell in his NEWAS t-shirt there, or just if you want to dive in and let us know what you think of number 5.
Well, the first, I got quite a medicinal sort of taste to it initially, quite strong. Maybe late 40% sort of strength. Sorry, I'm having internet problems tonight, so if I keep jerking away, sorry about that.
No worries. Do you reckon this is I presume you're thinking that this is peated then?
Maybe. I do get that impression.
Yeah.
I definitely get that impression.
Do you like it?
Yeah, number 2 was my favourite so far. This is probably second favourite.
All right. Okay.
It's definitely a sort of a medicinal, which does sort of lend itself, I suppose, to an ale, a sort of peated, certainly a peated flavour anyway.
I know Keith has suggested it, empty elastoplast box. I mean, that's a corker, that one.
It's close to medicinal.
So, John Musham, what do you
It
think?
hasn't got
that
in-depth medicinal that you get from Lefroy, but it's just that, on the back draft of it.
Yeah.
I thought it had
Nice,
a look
nice.
like bacon.
Bacon?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now that you say it, you just put it in my head though. John Musham, come on, I think you've been quiet tonight. How are you doing? Is he there? John, are you there? Oh,
If he is, he's about to jump up from underneath where he is.
yeah, scare us all to hell. Yeah, yeah.
Gonna jump out with that bloody flicky mask on he had on earlier.
Becca, Ollie, what are you guys thinking of this one? I think I saw a note saying that this was your favourite.
Rotten
Oh,
vegetables.
this one's lovely. This is the sort of peaty and saltiness. I think there's a bit more sort of frazzly taste to it. She's more at the ham end of things. I think it's the most well balanced of the evening. And you know, I'd quite happily jump in the bath with Callum with one of these.
Fair enough. So there's an invite for you. So Casper, what are you thinking, Casper? Oh, sorry. Go on, Callum.
I was just saying, I think I might have to politely decline that invitation. I think this one's the most peated that we've had tonight. I've got, or we've got, the medicinal, bandages, antiseptic, oily engine, coastal sea breeze. Kate said, old fishing boat at sea. I reckon this was like, you know, we've drank a lot of SMWS Scotias over the years, and this is like a typical SMWS peated Scotia, straightforward, first-fill bourbon, but you know, not heavily peated, but medium peated. This is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old range that we could just sit and drink all night.
Do we get back to a plain just ex-bourbon unpeated, and then that beats it?
Yeah, I said, well, to be quite honest with you guys, I'm afraid I've got nothing else to add to what Callum said. So.
Callum and Kate, yeah.
Yes, Callum and Kate, absolutely.
Well, or it's more correct to say Kate, yes. Not that.
Casper, what are you thinking? I'm mightily impressed that you kept that hood on all this time.
I do have a neck fan on underneath. It's all in the preparation, Carl.
Well
I
done.
thought this dram was spooktacular.
Way!
I've waited all night for that.
Well done.
I'm not a fan of number 5, I'll be absolutely honest. I thought, against the crowd, I thought 2 was really good, and I enjoyed number 4, but it took a little while to get used to. But I was one of the guys that didn't think there was any peat in number 4. I'm still thinking Iain's maybe drank too much of his samples. But yeah, but it is great to try these things that you'll never try again, kind of thing. So despite number 5 not being for me, the night's been great, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has.
So I don't know if everybody would like to put in what they viewed was their favourite to their least favourite in the chat, just to kind of give a feel for. I know that Dennis gave 5, 3, 4, 1, and 2 as his suggestions. Nigel says put in 5, 4, 5, 3, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 5. Trying to get my head around all of this. So does anybody?
Carl.
Oh yeah, go on, Tim.
I'm one of 4 children, and I would hope my mum would struggle to rank us in order of who her favourites were. I think this tasting is unbelievable. The last one, I was thinking, wow, that's brilliant. The first one, I've still got a little bit of left of that one, and that is just truly unbelievable. And if you said to me, right, well, you can buy a tasting set, 20 CL, something like that. Yeah, stick me down for 2. It's like the Glen Scotia, was it the Glen Shield hotel one?
Shield.
Yeah, the Odd Shield.
Odd Shield.
Odd Shield, yeah.
Yep.
That's very similar to number 1. There's some unbelievable stuff there. Wow. Cheers, Iain. You're an absolute legend.
I think that was kind of what we were saying when we came out in May when we did the warehouse tasting with Iain. We were all just blown away. But I have to say that you've done the same tonight for me as well. I have to say that I think all of these have been absolutely fantastic drams. Just fantastic.
Iain, could you rank those 5 your favourite, your least favourite? That would be interesting for us.
Yeah.
Oh, do you know that? Well, I'll tell you what the last one is. Okay, are we good to go with the last one? Can I tell you what the last one
Oh
is?
yes, we haven't even done the reveal on that one yet.
Yes. So it's exactly what Callum said there. What did you say, Callum? You said
8 to 12. We give a big span on it.
So it was spot on. It was basically 2009. It was medium peated. It's first fill bourbon. Medium peated would be 23.4.
23.5 on the bottle.
23.5. Like that 1% out. 0.1. So yeah, that's it. You know, that's 2009. So it's obviously from the that as I say, there's always something behind it. So that getting to 2009, that would be your first when you started to see a lot of the first, you know, the new wave of peated Glen Scotia. So rather as the older Glen Scotias, which only went to about high 30s, you know, and a lot of refill hoggies and whatever. That was obviously when you started to see the first fill bourbon, medium peated. Then you started to see some of the heavily peateds, and then further on it was some of the lightly peated. So that's the era that bottle's from. So yeah, quite interesting.
What was the ABV?
Can we get a cask and ABV?
Yeah.
Yes, so it's first fill bourbon. And the ABV of that one is 57.2%.
Wow.
Sorry, what number was it?
Cask number 126.
Thank you.
2009. Okay. Yeah, so that was February 2009, Brian, that one was filled. So yeah, so that was obviously when we did the peated run. So we did medium peated, and I can't remember whether we did some heavily peated as well that year. So yeah, well done. Done really well there. You know, that one was obviously, we're getting good at this now. So you bang on with that one. That was really well done.
So what's your ranking?
Yeah.
Sorry, Callum.
Your ranking.
What's your
my ranking? Yes. Right. Okay. That's difficult, you know.
Yes.
I like them all for what they stand for, as I say. You know, they've all got quality wise or what they stand for wise. I mean, I always go back, you know, the bourbon influence for me, I just cannot see by it, you know, whether it's got a little bit of peat on it or whether it's standalone bourbon or even the finish there. I've got to say, you know, and I like these casks, I really do. I like.
Are you going to give a politician's answer here, Iain?
Yeah, you know, I am, I guess, because I never really thought on it. You know, I like them all for what they mean. You know, and I never think anything that's, you know, that's the best. I really prefer that one. I always think I like that one for such and such reasons. I like this one for such and so. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult for me, you know, but yeah, okay, let me put them in order what I think, okay? Let me put a number on them. I actually, me personally, I like the bourbon. I like the first fill bourbon.
That's your number one?
That's my number one. It's not the finest first fill bourbon I've ever tasted, but I like that one, okay?
Right.
I like the finish. Number two, so that would be that would be the Love Heart.
Yeah.
Okay, darling. Number three, I think I quite like actually the 1999. I think that was quite interesting, a wee bit funky.
Yeah.
number 4, I quite like the medium peated and the 2002, if I had to rank them.
Yeah.
For me, there's very little between them all. You know, they've all get good points, bad points, and everything in between. But there you go. I've put a number on it.
Well done, Ian. And you don't fancy becoming our next Prime Minister, do you? With that, we could do enough lot worse than have you as Prime Minister.
Well, I know it's slightly getting a bit embarrassing now, isn't it? I thought, God Almighty, I say every time you watch something, you're thinking, right, okay, we're going to get a new norm now, and and as I say, you know, whatever happens, happens. But I'm saying if the man at left comes back, that'll be a first, you know. So nothing's impossible nowadays. So
far, the people who've ranked stuff, I think, if I'm correct, and please by all means check through the notes yourselves, but I think 4, so the one that's the Love Heart, was ranked first by the most people so far, if I'm right. I think there's about 4 or 5 that suggested number 4 is their favorite. So yeah, but actually there's quite a variation in there, and a few people have said number 1 as well. I have to say, if you go back to it, I've kept a tiny little bit left of number 1. Number 1 is pretty damn special as well. I'm struggling with which my favorite would be, to be fair. Which my favorite? Which my favorite?
It's really. I did a Glen Scotia tasting with Southport Whiskey Club, and everyone was raving about the Warehouseman's, and that was my least favourite. And the very first time I ever spoke to Mr. Iain MacAlistair was he just happened to pick on me when we'd had the Warehouseman's. I was sitting in the Mash in Southport, and my answer, I was getting glared at by Victor and some other people. Nigel was sitting next to me. He wasn't glaring at me, but I suggested the Warehouseman's was my least favourite. And tonight, the one that Nigel said was like the Warehouseman's was 4, and that was my least favourite tonight.
Aye.
And when I say least favourite, I really do mean that. They were very, all very good. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Glen Scotia fanboy, but I just felt that they were all, you know, Ian, you talk about DNA and you talk about regionality.
Yep.
And this tasting has got DNA and regionality all over it. So thank you very much.
My pleasure, sir. Thank you. And that's what it's all about. You know, it is, as I say, you know, as I keep saying, and you know, for me, I don't think for a minute they're the best examples of that particular cask. I'm trying to find the finest whiskey to bring to you, to show you, you know, I'm trying to show you, you know, there's foibles in there, you know, there's been struggle, there's been heartache, you know, they have got their plus points, but there are a lot of negatives in there too, to be honest with you. You know, there really is. But you know, I think that's important. I think it's important you understand the whole picture and not just this is a wonderful picture. Let's look at this all the time. You know, it's interesting. It is, you know, it's in what I go through on a daily basis, you know, when I get lucky enough that I can obviously go and visit these casks. So and I think that is obviously where you guys are, you know, as a whiskey community. I think it's, you know, you're incredibly well informed, you know, a lot about whiskey. So I think it's good that obviously it helps you potentially, you know, add a bit more to your knowledge. So
I have to say, you know, I'm not smoking. Sorry, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass on this one. Up your ass. You know, you're suggesting that some of the whiskies aren't the best and so on. But I have to say, I have a suspicion that I won't be the only one to say that if all of our virtual tastings had as good whiskey as this, we'd all be, you know, going around with smiles on our face all of the time. I mean, there's been some corkers in here, you know, and I know you keep saying it's not the best in the world, but this is lovely stuff. You know, it is just good stuff. Who's being noisy in the background, you buggers? Oh, it's the hills. It's the hills. Off to the hills with yous.
The hills have eyes.
No, Iain, great stuff. Thank you very much. And I don't know if anybody has any additional questions to ask before we start the Halloween quiz. Was anybody had any other comments or?
I would just like to blow smoke up Ian's arse again. I think that was absolutely amazing.
Thank you, Tim.
I agree, Tim, as well. I think that's been a great
one that challenged you, a couple that, well, two of them I would drink forever. They're absolutely beautiful, and really appreciate it, Ian. Thanks very much.
My pleasure. Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, Iain, you have. Thank you very much for coming along. Obviously, Iain, I don't know whether you want. I don't know if you want to stick around for the Halloween quiz, but you're welcome to. Obviously, the virtual pub is going to stay open, so we're going to do this little quiz thing. But you know, don't worry, Iain. We won't hold it against you if you want to nick off. But thank you very much for spending your time with us tonight and for sharing such amazing whiskies. And thank you very much for everybody who has come along tonight. Just to let you know that the next virtual tasting will be Glen Murray before anybody disappears. And that's going to be on the 17th of December. So another Iain is coming along. So Iain Allen is coming along to do a great tasting with us. I don't have a clue what the lineup is going to be yet. But just to let you know on that. And also the Secret Santa, I'm going to be organizing that and sending out the link for the sign up for the Secret Santa. So this will be our 3rd or 4th year that we've done the Secret Santa. So we'll see how we get on with that, and we'll set a date as well for doing the reveal or the sharing of the secret sample as well. So but thank you very much, Iain, and thanks everyone. And if you want to stick around, please do.
Thank you very much.
Iain. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Fantastic.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, guys. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Paul, can I get Ian in the Secret Santa?